help you figure out what to do next. So that's where we're coming from. That's what they say. And I'm saying that applies to A, Bs and Cs. And you may have an entire school full of people like that. So all you've got to do is modify the instruction. Make it more relevant. Adapt to their needs, in learning needs, I mean. And that's all you have to do. Now that is more likely in a primary setting because more damage gets done the longer you go. And the longer you go, the more difficult you get, and it just accelerates the damage because by the time you're here, your behaviour is seen as like animalistic. So you get a lot of negative feedback. Here you just annoy people. I mean, it'd be interesting to ask you, how do you feel about these people here? They repeatedly talk, or then they move, and then they forget, and then they've got to ask questions, but they stop every time and do it again. How do you feel inside when this is happening? What's the feeling? Frustrated? Yep. Irritated, annoyed. But you don't feel like that with the second one. By the time they get to here, and they just I saw beauty at one point. The teacher was trying out some techniques, and these two girls were talking, and the teacher said, Kylie, and Kylie turned around and looked at her, and she started to go with a message, look, when you're talking, and Kylie turned straight back to the girl and continued a conversation. That was perfectly here. Now, how do you feel? Or they argue with you, and they say, that's nonsense. No one takes this class seriously. What are you talking about? So, how do you feel? Angry, but why? Disempowered, challenged. Yep. To do with power. Third category. By the way, this is the best way to know what's going on, assuming you're normal. If you're not normal, then it's your problem, not theirs. That's why therapists have to be unpacked and put back together so they know what they bring to the table. Well, we're not therapists. So this is where it gets a bit dicey. But never mind. This one. This kid is vicious, hurtful, damaging. How do you feel? Unsafe. Again? Unsafe. Unsafe, yeah, threatened. Absolutely. Unsafe. And you are, by the way, if they're old enough. And these ones, you've done everything you can think of and the kid just will not engage. They are blank. How do you feel? Who? Failure, yeah. Helpless. Can't be any use. Firstborns suffer very badly from that with these kids because they just can't help them. So that gives you an insight into what their motivation is. So the way you feel, assuming you're pretty normal, then it's a good guide. But this stuff shouldn't do that. It shouldn't make you feel like those things. And I don't think A, Bs and Cs make us feel like that very much. By the time you get to Ds though, the argument is they have a need to satisfy, and that's what this behaviour is meant to do. It's a personal need. It's got almost, well, very little to do with the environment other than the environment generates more or less need. I'll explain what I mean. If you're in an environment which is perceived as threatening, your need will become greater. So if I ask a kid to write something, that's when they'll probably get a bit stroppy. Whereas if I ask them to colour something in, they probably won't. That's right. And so if you're clever, you'll give them a way to express how threatening the work feels before they have to show you. That's the principle. Allow them to tell you how scared they feel by this work. If like I was giving you spelling backwards, if you were doing that for a couple of years and you were really threatened every time that activity came on because you knew you couldn't do it as well as everybody else in the room, you knew you were a failure, then if you could at least express that to me, I could first, well, I've found even just expressing it helps, but I could maybe modify your work in a way that would make it less threatening to you. I could give you pictures and you'd look at it and then spell that word backwards. That would already be a huge advantage to you. So that's where we're coming from. But these ones, the way you know really in my process is they just keep going. You're doing all the other things normally. You're having the conversations out of class. It doesn't seem to help very much. Okay. Now, why are they different? And the answer is they have greater need than most of us. Most of us are normal, meaning we have needs, but the needs are generally met well enough that we think we're okay. But these kids just happen to be born after a super bright firstborn, or they secondborn took them over, or I don't know, their parents are abusive or neglectful, or they just think they are, or the expectations are so high no one could possibly live up to them. Whole batch of reasons why they might feel that way. So we're talking about kids who we're trying to understand at the moment. So this is the theory in a nutshell, that this all happens so early in life, and I have trouble with this part of the theory because I watch my grandchildren. I'm trying to work out if this is happening in front of my eyes. And some of it seems innate, as was already suggested. Some of it just seems innate. I even played with the idea of turning right-handers into left-handers to give them a sport in racket sports, give them an advantage, and I thought, nah, yeah. But the reality is, some of it just is in there, and you can't change it no matter what you did anyhow. So I acknowledge that the theory can only go so far. But they will figure out how to get recognised in their family. They need that. Everyone needs... The theory says we're all social beings. We're embedded in a social context. We need that. Now, if you don't give it to us in my family, I'll find it somewhere else, if I can. If I can't get it in school, I'll find it somewhere else. If the regular community won't give it to me, then maybe the gang will. And all I've got to do is something I'm capable of, which is maybe shoot someone accurately, and I'm in. And my eye's good and my hand's good. So it's interesting to think about it in that way. By the way, all the massacres you hear about in schools, they belong in the third category, because they got a gun and they got even. Because it's about revenge. They got even on the world by killing up usually the popular people, or the jocks, the ones who seem to be okay. In Australia, they burn down the school. But then they want you to know they burn it down because they need you to know they've got even at some level, it seems. So it's sort of predictive in some ways. Okay, here's a nice classic example. I hope it doesn't ring too close to some people.